Deciding whether to lease your next home or purchase your next home is a big decision, and you honestly are the only person that can determine which option is best for you. And I'm here to have that conversation with you today. I'm Radisha, your favorite licensed real estate broker with the Distinctive Lifestyle Real Estate Company. So let's talk about the possibilities. Which one is best for you versus which one isn't? So both options have their own set of pros and cons. And the best choice will depend on your individual preferences, your lifestyle preferences, your goals also, right? So let's break down some key considerations. So let's talk about first the pros and cons of leasing. With leasing, there seems to be this affordability factor that people might think is easier to lease a home than it is to purchase. And it might be depending on where you go and what it is that you're trying to lease. Many apartment complexes have move in specials, they have great opportunities, they have a thing called a bond where you don't have to come up with all the money up front. You pay like a flat rate in lieu of putting down a down payment or deposit. So there are options. So it can be more affordable depending on if you're renting from a major company versus a private owner. So generally, traditionally, there's less upfront cost to leasing a home. And buying typically requires a down payment with closing costs. But there's been things that's changed, and I will share some of those with you when we go to the pros and cons of purchasing a home, right? You have flexibility. A lease is only a year. You can always have the option to renew. If you needed to move, it's easier to move and relocate versus having to put your home back on the market and sell it or rent it out. It's typically lower maintenance. And I say typically, it all depends on the property and the lease that you have. But traditionally speaking, when it comes down to the maintenance of the unit, that's something that the landlord, property owner has to deal with. You also have more predictable expenses. You pay your lease amount. Some places you pay water, sewer, trash, but it's more textbook, like you know what it is that you're getting into. It's more outlined. You don't have to be concerned about property taxes and insurance. And then you also have access to amenities, right? So many properties have gyms, pools, and other amenities for a flat fee, or that's included in your rate to lease the property that you're considering. Now, the cons of leasing your next home could be there's no equity in there for you. You're making all these payments, and some people consider it to be dead money. So you're just paying this money for the use that you have for that time, but you can't get anything from it later on. You have less control because landlords and property owners and managers tend to set the rules. So you have limitations on the things that you can do, like pet restrictions on the type, the weight, the size, those different kinds of things. You can't really decorate the way that you want to. So you have less control over the property and the environment. And then if it's more like a complex, you are around more people. And if you're a person who prefers to have less people around you, that might work better for having a single family home. You also have the investment potential missed, where there's nothing really in it for you. You're just paying into someone else's goal, and you have limited customization. Now, another thing with renting is whatever part, like whatever price you're paying to lease that unit is going to be more than a mortgage, because it's going to be whatever the mortgage are. It is the other fees that you have to consider and a profit tacked into it. So the price that you're paying to lease, more than likely the majority of the time, is going to be more than a mortgage payment. Now, when we talk about the pros and cons of home ownership, you're able to build equity. So the payments that you're making is going to be something that you can tap into later on. And typically property values increase over time. So you're able to sell that property later on for more than what it was that you initially invested into it. And again, it depends on the circumstances around how you purchase the home and those different factors, right? So these are generalizations. You have stability because owning a home provides a sense of stability and permanence. It's yours. If it's something that you would like to pass down, you can do so. You have more control over that home where you can do the renovations, the improvements, and the landscaping, unless you're in an area that has an association. And of course, associations have their own rules, restrictions, etc. And then there are some tax advantages when you own your own home, like you can deduct your mortgage interest and property taxes, potentially lowering your tax burden, right? Then you have the potential for appreciation where the values can rise over time, providing financial gain when or if you're going to sell that particular property. Now, traditionally with a home, there are higher upfront costs, but there's programs and companies where you don't actually have to put down a down payment for your home. Sometimes the only thing you do is pay for closing costs. So on a traditional note, it would normally be a higher upfront cost to purchase a home, but depending on if you qualify for certain programs or if you choose to look into them, and actually might not be as expensive, because when it comes to leasing, one of the cons that I've seen is that it's a lot of money to move in. So some places have first and last, some have first and security, some have first, double security, and last. So let's say the rent is $3,000. That's $12,000 for some units. When if you have gone into, looking into home ownership, you could have gone through a program where you didn't have to put down a down payment and just pay closing costs, which might actually be comparable. So that's something else to consider, right? Now, with a home, it's traditionally thought of long-term commitment, because selling a home can be time consuming and costly, and it makes it harder to move quickly. But if you want to move, you can also put that property up for rent. So you still have options and flexibility on how you choose to manage that asset that you have. Now, the maintenance responsibilities when you own a home, that's on you. You can't call a landlord or a property manager and say, hey, these are the different issues that I have, because now that responsibility is yours. And there's sometimes a risk of the property value declining, but historically they go back up. But it depends on what you're trying to do at that particular time. And then mortgage payments, for some people, it can be a financial strain, because property taxes can be a significant financial burden, especially depending on what's going on in the economy, which state you purchase your home in, etc. So I'm a licensed real estate broker in Florida, and I work with clients typically in the South Florida area. So these are some of the things that you should consider when you're trying to determine, do I want to stay in the rental that I have or the lease that I have, or do I want to purchase a home? And it's always good to seek wise counsel. So you can go to your bank or financial institution and have a conversation with them. You can have a conversation with the licensed mortgage broker, and just a general conversation. You don't have to have it where you have your credit pulled, but you can just start exploring the options on what works best for you. But you truly are the only person that can determine, should I lease or should I buy? So these are just some of the talking points that I want to go over with you about leasing versus buying. And if you have any additional questions, you can drop them in the comment section, or you can schedule a consultation with me and we can have that conversation to try to see which one works best for you. So thank you. This is again, Radisha, your favorite licensed real estate broker with a distinctive lifestyle real estate company, talking to you about everything that has to do with real estate. Until next time, take care